Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 8th of July, 2021. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So I did discuss yesterday that the London network upgrade, the kind of hard fork that includes EIP-1559, will be most likely going live on August 4th. Well, we now have a pretty good idea and pretty much 100% chance that it's going live on August 4th here at block number 12,965,000. You can see here, this is the reason why, because London was merged into all of the clients for mainnet, and now there's an expected mainnet date. As you can see here, August 4th, which is awesome. I mean, what more can I say? I've spoken about 1559 ad nauseum on the refuel. I'm not going to rehash everything that I've said in the past, but I just think that we're so close now. A little less than a month to go. I can't wait to see it go live on mainnet. Can't wait to see all the ETH being burned. But yeah, I mean, as I discussed it in depth yesterday, I'm not going to go I'm not going to go in detail about it today. And I'm pretty sure you all would have seen, the dates flying around anyway, and you're probably well aware of this. But I just wanted to kind of give a quick shout out there, and I just, kind of like say how excited I am. But on that note as well, 1559 went live on Rinkeby, as you can see here. So all three testnets have successfully upgraded to London. Obviously, we've been following that on the refuel, and Rinkeby was the last one. It's actually going to go live on, what's the other testnet's name? I forget now. There's a fourth testnet that will be going live on, but that'll happen after mainnet. So we'll get mainnet first, which is awesome. So mainnet next. If everything goes well, it'll be August 4th. And I have no reason to believe, it won't go well. As I said, it's already been merged. All the clients are going to upgrade and everything, and London's going to go through, and we're going to have this live on mainnet, which I'm super excited about. On that note, Etherscan is now showing a really cool field here. It shows the savings a user got from using 1559 style transactions. So, after London goes through, we're going to have all these different fields on Etherscan, the base fee, tip, and then also this one that says transaction fee savings. Now, there's a lot of debate around will 1559 actually lower transaction fees. In my mind, no. I don't think it's going to materially lower them. But what it does is it smoothens out transactions, which means that there'll be less overpayment. So for end users, the fee they'll pay probably net pay less for fees by a little bit because of that reduction in overpayment. But generally, I think that the only way to reduce fees for end users is to scale their throughput at higher layers. Like layer 1, as I've explained many times before, is not going to service the world. It's just not going to happen on Ethereum. And any other chain that's claiming that it's going to happen on their layer 1, while they're making massive decentralization trade-offs to achieve that. So as I've discussed this before as well, but still cool to see this. I'm actually curious to see how my transactions go, because I am pretty... I play pretty hard and fast with my transactions on Ethereum. I'm pretty impatient, so I just basically put through a fast or rapid transaction every time. I don't really wait for things, even though, these things aren't urgent. I just want them done. So I think with 1559, it's really going to help me and save me a fair bit of money. I was actually looking at the amount of gas fees that I had spent over the last year, because I'm doing my taxes at the moment, and it was a lot more than I thought it was. You can actually go to Etherscan, export your transaction history on your address, and it'll calculate the fee in USD at the time that you did it, at the time of the ETH price. So it won't say basically, this is how much you spent on fees. If you take the current ETH price, it'll take it at what it was at the time of transaction. And yeah, I spent a lot of ETH on fees especially during DeFi summer. I was doing very degen stuff during that time, and I think because the market was so hot, you didn't really care if you were spending $100 transaction fee if you were making way more than that. So I'm just going to be curious to see how much I save now that I won't be able to kind of do this, or at least I will be able to, but I won't need to, because there's a 95% chance that your transaction will make it into the next block if you just pay the base fee, which is going to definitely, those kind of savings will be passed on to users. But I think, short term that might do something, but medium to long term, definitely the fees are just going to keep going up, and they're going to get to a point where, they're already at the point where it's too expensive for most users. I think 10 Gwei is even too expensive for most users, if I'm being honest. So I think that at this point in time, we're just going to scale via layer 2. Layer 1, as I've said, will be a layer 2 kind of proof chain, and for whales to play in. And for a lot of people that still want to use layer 1 because there's opportunities there, and there's not, we don't have a robust layer 2 ecosystem just yet, I think that's what's gonna play out there. So David Hoffman put out one of his new pieces today called "ETH: The World's Most Capital Efficient Asset." Now, this, of course, was published in Bankless. I think David, I don't know if he said it on Twitter, but he said, I think he DM'd me and said, "You're going to cover this in on the Refuel," because I think he's a religious watcher of the Refuel. And yes, David, I'm covering it. Of course, I am. I was going to cover it anyway because I love your writing. I love the way you use different kind of a lot of different analogies in your writing. And for those of you who have read David Hoffman's pieces before, you'll know what I mean. But essentially, this piece focuses on exactly what's in the title, that ETH is the world's most capital efficient asset. Now, David breaks this down to a bunch of different categories, basically explaining what capital efficiency is and why it's kind of desirable here, going down and explaining, what you can do with your ETH from obviously staking and DeFi, and without ETH, DeFi isn't decentralized, because ETH is pretty much the only decentralized asset on Ethereum, like 100% trustless. There's no smart contract risk, none of that sort of stuff, and it's fully backed by the protocol itself. There's no kind of admin keys or anything like that. And then he goes on to down here, I believe. Kind of like what happened, like a bit of a history of how we got to this capital efficient state with the birth of things like MakerDAO, obviously, Compound, Uniswap, all the top DeFi apps and things like that. And then he goes on to describe what it means to be good collateral, and there's a bunch of different examples in here. It's a fairly long, chunky article. I really, really loved reading it. It was very interesting. Definitely go check it out if you haven't yet. I'll link it in the YouTube description, of course. But generally, I mean, I'm sure most of you are already subscribed to Bankless. If you're not, definitely go subscribe to them. They put out so much good content. It's actually insane how much content they put out. And I think it's a really good kind of, sister, I guess you could call it like a sister kind of ecosystem to the Daily Gwei. Whereas on the Daily Gwei, I basically, I guess for more people that are like more involved in the ecosystem, I definitely don't cater too much towards newbies. But Bankless does. Bankless does a lot of different guides and things like that. And I don't want to shill them too hard here, but definitely I love my subscription to Bankless. I love everything that I receive from them, and I'm always learning something from them. So definitely go check it out, as well as this article from David. So Zapper now supports a balancer on Polygon. So if you are a balancer liquidity provider on Polygon, because they recently did some liquidity mining campaigns that were pretty lucrative, I think, you can now track this all on your kind of Zapper dashboard, which I think is really, really cool. What I like about Zapper is that they're supporting not only Polygon, they're supporting Optimism. I'm sure they're going to support Arbitrum, but they're also supporting BSC. Now, obviously, I've been very, very critical of BSC in the past, but I think that Zapper has users from every kind of ecosystem, and you shouldn't ignore your users just because they choose to use BSC and they're not using something that you I guess like more aligned with. So I think that I respect the team a lot for doing that. As much as like I couldn't care for it, and I mean obviously like I'm not a fan of BSC, we should still be allowing users to kind of use their tools that they like wherever they like at the end of the day. And if it's easy to integrate with, BSC is pretty much very similar to Ethereum to integrate with because of that EVM compatibility, you should definitely do that. But yeah, it's still good to see them supporting other ecosystems like Polygon, and they're going to support everything. I mean, I assume at this point they're going to support pretty much every layer 1 ecosystem as time goes on, as they build out more robust kind of like ecosystems there. Zapper's going to be there, which I think is really cool. But if you're a liquidity provider on Balancer on Polygon, you can check it all now in your Zapper dashboard. So Marius from the Go Ethereum team here, the Geth team, put out a really great concise tweet today where he says, he asks, is it possible to run an archive node on Bitcoin? And then he says, no, because Bitcoin has no archive node. Nodes always prune the UTXO set. Now, for those who don't know, Ethereum and Bitcoin differ in a big way because Ethereum has an account-based model, whereas Bitcoin has a UTXO-based model for its transactions. So UTXO is not unique to Bitcoin. There are other, Bitcoin came up with it obviously, but there are other forks out there that use this, like Dogecoin and Litecoin and all those sorts of things. Whereas Ethereum has an account model. Now with Bitcoin, like I don't know how closely a lot of you have looked at the blockchain with Bitcoin, but every time you do a transaction, there's like new addresses kind of generated, and then the wallets, it's up to the wallets to kind of collapse those all together so that you just have one main address, and like you can spend from all of those addresses. But with Ethereum, you only have one address. It's not like a new address is created when you send ETH or do whatever. It's an account. So it's one account with one kind of public address and everything like that. So those are the main differences between those. But back on topic here, and Marius goes on to say, Ethereum has a full node that's the same as Bitcoin's full node and an archive node, which is the full historical state lookup without having to recreate the state. Now, this is another key difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum. Ethereum has a rich state, whereas the state is basically the smart contract layer, essentially, right? The EVM, all that good stuff, all that kind of stuff there. Whereas Bitcoin doesn't. Now, this is exactly why Ethereum it's like more intensive to run an Ethereum node, where you have to run it on a solid state drive. You can't run it on a hard drive. And also that there's the concept of this archive node where you basically do a full historical kind of like state lookup and you process the state from Genesis to today. And that is very chunky. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's at almost 10 terabytes or something, but probably come down because of TurboGeth or Aragon. They've been doing some good work here. But an Ethereum full node that doesn't do this, it doesn't do a full historical state lookup. It's basically a prune node. It's still the same as Bitcoin's full node. So whenever you see someone on Twitter talking about this and saying, oh, well, Ethereum full node is not equivalent to a Bitcoin full node, you have to do an archive node to be equivalent, that's not true. An Ethereum full node has all the information you need to reconstruct an archive node if you wanted to, and it also verifies everything is correct on the chain, just as a Bitcoin full node would. So just wanted to kind of explain that there. There's a section on ETHub that explains this in more detail. If you want to check that out, you can go to docs.ethub.com, I think .io, sorry, and check it out there. And there's a full node section there, and there's a lot of good articles linked in there as well to explain the difference between the two. So LevxApp from SushiSwap has teased a new NFT platform coming to SushiSwap. It's basically posted on the forum here. There's a bunch of different kind of, screenshots and details about this. And I mean, this is pretty detailed here. I'm not going to read out the whole thing. You can obviously check this out. It'll be linked in the YouTube description. But essentially, this is the details. It's going to have an immersive gallery and 3D metaverse. It's going to have a social token, on-chain and off-chain exchange, bidding strategies, royalties distribution, fractional ownership, and multi-chain support. So this is going to fall under the SushiSwap umbrella. I think this is really cool. I mean, NFTs, the metaverse, social tokens, all this sort of stuff is heating up, right? Like, I mean, when you really think about it, we're only just scratching the surface here. And I've been talking about this a lot up until this point. I've talked about Axie Infinity a lot. I've talked about just blockchain gaming in general a lot. And social tokens is something that I don't think I've touched on too much, which I'm going to touch on actually with the thing that I talk about next. But generally, you're going to see the metaverse heat up. I don't know if you saw this a few weeks ago, but Epic Games actually announced that they're going to be investing billions of dollars into the metaverse. And I think a lot of people actually look at the term metaverse and like, okay, what does this mean? And I don't think there's one kind of like definition for it. But the way I kind of like come to look at it and the way I would define it is that the metaverse covers like a broad set of digital first experiences. I guess that might be the proper way to put it, because to me, metaverse is just an umbrella term for NFTs, social tokens, new ways of publishing, new ways of creating content, gaming, blockchain-based gaming and things like that, and also virtual reality and augmented reality fall into that. So virtual worlds and stuff like that. So if you believe and if you think that in the future and then going into the future, it's going to be basically we're going to have this massive virtual world, something like Ready Player One, then and then we have all these interconnected kind of video games, and we can buy and sell assets on all these open marketplaces and things like that. Then that is what the metaverse is, and and then social tokens come into it because you're going to have people having their own kind of tokens and doing their own kind of things with DAOs, and I mean even DAOs could fall under the metaverse stuff there. And obviously a lot of this stuff is going to be built on Ethereum, and Ethereum will be kind of like substrate that it all gets kind of deployed to as well, which is really, really cool. And I think it's just awesome that SushiSwap is getting ahead of this and kind of deploying something here. I think that they're uniquely positioned to deploy this sort of stuff as well, because they have a really great art team, so to create really awesome NFTs and to do kind of like gallery experiences. I think they have a really awesome ecosystem and community. They definitely have the builders that can do this. They already have like a roadmap and release plan here, and they will also be kind of like funding this out of, I guess, like the Sushi treasury as well. So they've got the money to fund this too, which I think is awesome. So if you haven't checked this out yet, definitely do so. It'll be linked in the YouTube description for you to check out. But yeah, I'm just really excited for this sort of stuff. And, in terms of timelines of where the metaverse is going to go and like how it's going to come to fruition and are we going to be using it in our day-to-day lives, I think it's still a while away. I actually think this even feeds into things like, I don't know if you guys remember, but there was this thing called Google Glass where you would wear these kind of glasses and they'd have like a little camera in them, or like a little screen, in them, and it would be like a heads-up display essentially, where you would see all this relevant information and you'd walk around and you could have like text messages pop up and whatever you want to have popping up and things like that. And then you could do things like augmented reality where you look through the glasses and you see like a whole new world. And there's been lots of media that has covered this, from video games to movies to shows and everything like that. And Google Glass was just a prototype. It was the first attempt at this, but obviously it didn't go anywhere and it failed. And now there's rumors that Apple Glass is coming out too. I actually think that is the future. Like as cringy and as maybe a little bit nerdy as it looked in the original iteration as Google Glass, I think if anyone's going to work it out, it's going to be Apple. And they're going to make it look good, and they're going to make people want it. I wouldn't say I'm an Apple maximalist or anything like that, but I think Apple has a pretty good way of designing these products to make people want them. Like, I didn't want a smartwatch until I got an Apple Watch, and now I wear my Apple Watch all the time. And, I have an iPhone and all this sort of stuff. But I think generally, if they can make it work, if they can create like a really cool augmented reality based kind of smart glasses, I guess you can call them, I think, the metaverse could get a big boost from that, because people are going to want to be able to do things in augmented reality. They're going to want technology even more deeply ingrained in their lives, so the metaverse naturally fits into that. So yeah, I'll leave it at that for now. I did want to kind of talk about social tokens actually, and one of the leading projects in this space is Friends with Benefits, or FWB. Today, they announced Season 3 of kind of their rollout here, called Creative Cooperation. Now, for those who don't know how Friends with Benefits works, they kind of like do seasons where they allow new people into the kind of ecosystem, into the DAO, based on like an invite kind of schedule, where people join and help out in various different ways. So they're launching another season for this Season 3, where they're doing a bunch of different things here. I think that the details of it, they've got like a recap here. I can't remember if they had, the details of the focus here. So basically, there's going to be different focuses here, from editorial to treasury to membership to product, and they have different team leads assigned to this and stuff like that. So there's a lot going on there. And I've been a part of the Friends with Benefits community for a little while. I sometimes lurk the Discord channel, and I know some of the people there. They're doing a lot of really cool stuff, I reckon. And this isn't to say go buy the token or anything like that. I mean, you can if you want to. I'm not going to tell you to do that or not. But I think that it's funny, because I was actually talking to a friend about this just before, and they were asking me like, are you going to do like a Daily Gwei token? I'm like, no, I don't think so. I don't really see a point to it. And then they were kind of saying, and then I was saying like, I don't feel like monetizing any of the Daily Gwei stuff. And then they said an interesting thing where they were like, well, you don't issue the money side of the token is like the least interesting thing. And then they were kind of talking about how, comparing it to like Bankless DAO, and like how a token just acts as like a really cool way to coordinate people and get people kind of on board and as part of a DAO. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I've been kind of following this sort of stuff for a while, and I've definitely seen this play out with different projects. But that's not to say that I'm going to be doing a Daily Gwei token or like a DAO or anything like that. I don't have any plans to, and I don't really want to. But it was just interesting getting this kind of other perspective where it doesn't have to be about money at all, really. It just has to be about a way to coordinate a community around certain things, whether that be kind of like different products and stuff like that within the community, or basically having them, if it was in the Daily Gwei community, having different people do different things to add value to the ecosystem. So I totally get that, but at the same time, I only want to, if I was to ever do one, like, maybe there's a slim chance that I do a token one day. I don't think so. I mean, I don't have any plans to, but it would have to make sense. And it would have to add a lot of value to the ecosystem. But again, I don't really plan to do anything like that. I'm pretty happy with where the Daily Gwei ecosystem is today, but I don't blame anyone for doing it. I'm actually paying attention to what Bankless is doing with their DAO and seeing how that goes and kind of like what success they have there. But I just don't think something like the Daily Gwei needs anything like that. And on that note, I've actually been thinking about, while I'm on this little tangent here, I've actually been thinking about different things that I can do with the Daily Gwei. And I was thinking I posted this in the Discord channel, but I was thinking of making a book of the first 300 newsletter pieces of the Daily Gwei newsletter, and basically putting it all together, doing like some really cool stuff with it, making some NFTs, getting some custom art done, and having like a collectible limited print edition book that the community could kind of like purchase if they wanted to and support all the work that I do and stuff like that, and kind of get your hands on cool NFTs. Now, if this sounds like the Beacon book that I've been talking about lately, it is like very much inspired by that. I've been so totally inspired by the work that Trent Van Epps has put into that book. He has put in over 400 hours into that, and into getting all the researchers on board and interviewing them all and getting all their kind of thoughts down and handling the NFT stuff, the printing, all that sort of stuff. I mean, I am just like so inspired, and I really would love to do something like that for the Daily Gwei. So that's kind of like how I view things. I want to try these weird and wacky new ways of kind of like getting the community involved with stuff rather than just a straight token and a DAO. I think there's a lot more stuff that can be done that is maybe Web3 specific or like Ethereum specific that will be interesting to do. But anyway, on that note, if you want to follow along with the social token ecosystem and learn more about it, I think Friends with Benefits is your best bet. So I'll link this in the YouTube description. You can go check it out, of course, and you can go see what they're all about and possibly join their Discord channel and see kind of what they're up to and how you can get involved. All right, so finally, thinking about, or at least talking about the Metaverse, I wanted to point out that the Index Corp actually has this product called the Metaverse Index. So the Metaverse Index basically consists of a bunch of different Metaverse-related tokens that you can kind of check out and that you can get exposure to by, I guess, let me go to this here, by buying the Metaverse Index. Now, this is built on SEP protocol. The assets in there, as you can see, come from a wide range of different projects. Like you got Sand, Mana from Decentraland, Eng from the Engine project, AXX obviously from Axie Infinity. Then you have a few different ones like Audio from Audius, which is a decentralized music streaming platform. You have NFTX, which is an NFT index platform, and there's a bunch of other ones like Rarible, NFT marketplace. There's a lot of tokens in here, but if you wanted to get broad exposure to what we consider the metaverse, like Whale is a social token, for example, then I think the Metaverse Index is probably your best bet because it's very. I mean, I know it's like. You can see here, like, it's definitely gone down, but it's been going up lately as more people clue into the metaverse. But I guess, like, if you wanted to speculate on the metaverse stuff, it's very hard to pick something that would be a big winner. Like, even picking something like AXS was hard. I think a lot of people FOMO'd into that at this point. Not saying if it's a good or bad buy at this point, but I think that there's a lot of kind of like people trend following this sort of stuff because it's very hard to know what's going to succeed. And a lot of these tokens don't make too much sense, right? Like, who knows where these tokens are going to go in the future, if they're going to be necessary, all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, the Metaverse Index will just give you kind of like broad exposure to the ecosystem. And it's from the Index Corps. You can trust that it's going to get rebalanced and everything like that. It's going to be stewarded correctly. And, they have a bunch of other products like the DeFi Pulse Index, the Flexible Leveraged Index tokens as well that I've spoken about lots of times in the past. But I just think it's cool to see that they already had this set up as well. I mean, this was launched a while ago, back in April of 2021. So it's been a few months now, but I think more people are paying attention to it because of the fact that more people are paying attention to the metaverse in general here. So yeah, if you haven't checked it out yet, be sure to do so. It'll be, of course, be linked in the YouTube description. But one last thing I wanted to talk about, maybe I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but I've got a little bit of time left, I see. So I definitely wanted to talk about this, was kind of like where a lot of this kind of stuff is in the adoption cycle. Now, I said the other day that I don't think the super cycle references prices, but references adoption. And if you're looking at a lot of this stuff, like the metaverse, like DeFi, like DAOs, like Web3, and you're thinking that, oh my God, it seems like it's everywhere right now. It seems like it's very big. I've said it many, many times before. it's still so early. It's still so messy. Like if DeFi, if you consider DeFi to be a little bit mainstream, the metaverse is so far behind that. It's not even funny. I would think that the metaverse is like at the very beginning stages of where it needs to be. There is so much experimentation that needs to happen. There is so much kind of I guess like working through different things that need to happen. So many platforms need to get built, so much infrastructure. We're just not there yet in terms of like anywhere near a place where you could have like your parents or your grandma kind of using it in any way. And I think even people, even younger people, there's a lot of them that won't care to use this stuff because it's just super speculative and a lot of it's not ready yet. So I just wanted to reiterate the fact that if you want to get involved with stuff that is like really early but is still on the bleeding edge, which means there's going to be a lot of messy stuff going on with it, then I think that the metaverse stuff is probably the best place to go to. And that includes social tokens. And I mean, NFTs are kind of like, NFTs are pretty, I wouldn't call them mainstream, but they're getting close, right? They're getting close to like being like in the public psyche. But the other parts of the metaverse, like social tokens, DAOs, I think are still pretty small. Web3 in general, decentralized, whatever of the Web2 stuff, that's the place to be. And especially if you're not interested in DeFi, because a lot of this stuff doesn't really have anything to do with financial products. Yes, they can kind of like mix with one another, and you can have like overlaps between them. But generally, they're kind of like standalone. They stand in their own ecosystem. And it's more about human coordination and I guess like entertainment than it is about financial kind of applications and what we can build and like how much we can degen into something and stuff like that. There is those elements, of course, as part of every community, but I believe it's like less so than something like DeFi. So yeah, definitely get involved in those communities if you're looking for a home and you're interested in that sort of stuff. But I think I'm going to wrap it up there for today. So thank you everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give that video a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks everyone.